back to the latest edition of Terrace Talk. Feels like a big game on Saturday. The 6-pointer cliche that's thrown around certain games, it sort of has all the feel of that. Norwich City making the trip to Ewood Park with that. Delighted to be joined by Rovers fan Ryan again. Ryan, great to have you back on the channel. Speaking a little bit about your team and maybe the season so far, I think there's only really one place to start. And of course, it is the appointment of your new manager, Valerien Ismael. Here he is. Of course, a wealth of experience in the Championship, most notably probably with Barnsley, guiding them to the playoffs quite a few years back. Then was part of the merry-go-round at Watford for a spell. Had a spell at West Brom as well. Some sort of experience as well in Turkey with Besiktas. Sort of a fairly substantial career there in terms of managerial record. What do you make of that appointment? What do Rovers fans make of that appointment? Always feels like a bit of a short-term manager if you kind of look at his recent history.
Yeah, definitely. I think first and foremost, a lot of fans probably would have preferred a different name. You know, the likes of Gary O'Neill, Rob Edwards, Steven Gerrard, Raphael Wicke. They were names that were doing the rounds fairly early on. But I think we got a significant piece to the jigsaw puzzle probably about this time last week, I think it was, where the rumour was that we weren't going to spend more than about 600 grand a year on a manager's salary. So if that is the case, and I do believe that for the record, then obviously you're shopping in different markets there. So if that's the market that you're operating in, I actually think Valerien Ismael is a pretty decent manager for that money that we're going to spend. As you say, he's got the Championship experience. I remember that Barnsley side. They were a bloody horrible side to play against. And yeah, short term is the word, Adam, because this group of players have done amazingly well this season. You know, we are over-exceeding where we thought we would be. And just with the right arm around them, the right manager to come in and make them feel $1 million, the right manager to get them walking out on that pitch in the right way, maybe we could make the top 6. So first and foremost, he is all about the short term, that 12-game sprint to the end, and then we'll see what happens in the summer. If we don't make it, I think there are fans with longer-term concerns about the state of contracts, etc. And he's got a 3-year contract himself as well, which was quite a surprise to a lot of us. So yeah, we're all focused on the 12-game sprint. And I think on paper, with what was available and the money we were spending, probably a decent appointment.
Yeah, in terms of the style of play, obviously you get to see him in the flesh. I believe he's doing his media at the moment. But in terms of him as a manager, what style do you expect him to bring to Rovers? Because I know he's kind of had contrasting sort of styles, I suppose, over the years. I think his Barnsley team were a lot more direct. You know, he kind of changed away from that a little bit at West Brom and Watford, as you'd maybe expect. So what sort of approach do you expect him to adopt when he arrives in the Ewood Park dugout?
Yeah, I don't think we'll see that kick and squeeze, I think it was called, at Barnsley, where, you know, they're lumping it up and then pressing the pitch. Because I think for that style of play, you know, he needs a pre-season, he needs more work with the players, and obviously needs to get fitness levels to a certain level. So I don't think we'll see it as extreme as that. However, what I do think we'll see, obviously we've got Maktar Gueye, who is a big target man up front. If he wants to play off him, then he can do. And all of a sudden for Rovers, you know, we have been struggling a little bit with injuries this season, but all of a sudden we do have options in attack. We've got 8 or 9 players that can stake a claim for one of the 3 forward positions. So if he did want to go for something which is high energy, high press, he's probably got the bodies and the numbers to do that. And he was renowned for making subs on like 60 minutes religiously, wasn't he, at Barnsley in particular? So I don't think it'll be an extreme kick and squeeze, but it wouldn't surprise me if we see a lot of that back line used in a really good way. The forward line, used in a really good way. The only concern I'd have is John Eustace did a really good job at keeping the goals out, keeping us tight at the back, and games were very pragmatic with not many chances. If we are going to go into a higher press, I do think that might expose our back line a little bit, and that would just be the one niggle that I've got if we did go for a change like that. So maybe he might not change that much at all, and maybe it'll just be something as simple as playing off Maktar Gueye.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. And you mentioned him there, the predecessor, John Eustace. What did you make of that departure? I mean, looking in from afar, obviously, it's quite clear that the maybe fractious relationship with the ownership has played into this, and you know, maybe being a little bit closer back to his family home nearer to Derby. But I'd imagine as a Rovers fan, it was quite frustrating because he seemed to have got you going. I know when we spoke back in August, you sort of said a 15th place finish would be good for Rovers to have you in the top 6 mix. You know, he was exceeding all expectations.
Yeah, it was a real emotional journey with this one because, there were little rumours earlier on in the season with other jobs like Coventry and Hull, and they were kind of never became a thing. But when this Derby job became more than a rumour and it really started to accelerate, the initial feeling was, wow, this is really disappointing on the part of the club, actually, because why is the Derby job attractive to a manager that has got the team? We were sat in 5th place at the time. So there was a lot of anger towards the club, a lot of anger towards the ownership about why that had been allowed to happen. But then, as you can probably imagine with this situation, when the club are then trying to get their side of the story out, there is that counter argument to say, well, you knew what you were walking into. And Jon Dahl Tomasson didn't exactly leave on really good terms. And, we are a club that still has basket case owners. We're still a club that hasn't spent much money despite having a lot coming through the door. So he kind of knew what he was walking into. So I think actually the initial disappointment towards the club probably morphed a little bit more actually into anger towards John Eustace that, he was promoting togetherness in the squad. He was promoting the fact that, let's achieve something special. And then seemingly when a decent job comes up, he's gone at the first hurdle, so to speak. So I think there's more anger now towards John Eustace because it's not new news to us that the owners are crap and, we've got no plan or strategy off the pitch. And actually, we thought Eustace was going to be the one to kind of, break away from that. So it is disappointing. And I don't mind saying, there are Rovers fans in the fan base, laughing at the recent results that Derby have had. I'm really looking forward to the Pride Park game that we've got next weekend because, it's just introduced a bit of needles. So, it was a weird one. And I myself went through a bit of an emotional journey with it as well, because as much as, yes, it has been funny, Derby's recent results, actually, I do want to go on record as saying that Eustace did a good job at us and kept us up on the last day last season in not very easy circumstances. And I think he deserves a lot of credit for the job that he did. But yeah, he's left on fairly disappointing terms, that is for sure.
Yeah, it certainly feels like that. Got a tough gig there at Derby, and the way their current form's going, it doesn't look pretty good for them to survive. But we'll see, of course, as we approach the tail end of this season. The January window, of course, shut just under a month ago now. What did you make of the business that Rovers done? I look kind of in at your business. A lot of players in the forward line. Corley Woodrow, of course, pretty notable from Championship experience. Emmanuel Dennis, a spell at Watford, pretty well renowned. Had a bit of a time in the Championship as well with them again last season. A few from overseas. Dion Sanderson at the back coming in as well. So as a whole, I suppose, strengthened a bit of that forward line and maybe trying to find some goals, but also a few additions at the back.
Yeah, I think my summary on it is fairly lukewarm, actually. I think it was like a 5 out of 10 window, I've got to say. To be sat in the playoffs going into January, you're looking at clubs like West Brom signing Adam Armstrong on loan and Hull getting Louis Barry on loan and all of that. And you're thinking, right, a striker like that could really see Rovers over the line here. And I just don't feel like we made any waves really in the transfer window to go and get a signing of that nature that could really get us over the line this season. So we did sign Eustace Cargbo from Serie B. He's very unknown. I know nothing about him. He's played 2 or 3 games now, looks quick, looks rapid. But is he going to be the man to fire you into the top 6 and make the playoffs? I'm not sure. Emmanuel Dennis, he's had lots of success at this level. But he's been sat on Forest's bench for the last 18 months. How fit is he? How much of an impact he's going to have? So it does feel like we lost a bit of an opportunity. And again, I'll repeat the point that we've had lots of money through the door. Adam Wharton, Sammy Smodics, David Raya sell on fee when he went to Arsenal from Brentford. Lots of money's come through this club in the last 2 years or so. And really, I do think we could have put our hand in our pocket and made, a real stellar loan signing. So 5 out of 10 for me, because I'm not fully angry at it, because I do think Dion Sanderson represented a decent signing, great cover at the back for us, and he's played a few games as well. Adam Forshaw's added a bit of experience in the centre of the park as well, and Yuri Ribeiro is one that's really surprised me, because I'd totally forgotten the fact that he played at Nottingham Forest and had a few games there, but he has come in and absolutely just looked a real solid addition, and the S-Housery that we talk about that you need at Championship level. Well, he rivals Lewis Travis for that now, just someone who's a bit streetwise, been around the block. And, in those games where you need to turn a draw into a win or you need to see a win out, Yuri Ribeiro could be a really smart signing in that sense, most certainly.
Yeah, certainly has some squad depth to the Rovers team. 6th at the moment, 51 points is there a belief, I suppose, of all this turbulence going on in recent weeks that the Rovers have got enough in the tank to be there in and around the end of the season, or sort of maybe look back at kind of a couple of recent years ago where you sort of tanked a little bit towards the end and missed out narrowly on the final day of the season? Does it kind of have a few flashbacks of that season?
Yeah, I think when you see results like the Swansea one, I was there on Saturday. That was a terrible result that we had last time out, and we were just not at the races at all, didn't battle, didn't want it, and Swansea were fully worthy of the win. So when you see results like that, you're kind of thinking, here we go again. But then when you see the previous two results of that, especially West Brom away, you're thinking, wow, maybe this squad is going to do something different. Maybe we have matured a little bit. And the point I said to you earlier, we do look like we've got a little bit of depth now than we had in previous seasons. We're not just relying on one man in Sammy Smodics. Things are spread around the squad a little bit more. So maybe there is a different belief. And Lewis Travis has come back an absolute different animal from your rivals, Ipswich. He is absolutely the heartbeat of the side. And then we've got Sondre Tronstad to come back as well. We can get the centre of the park locked down in the way that it was early on in the season. Maybe we can just about make it. But they're going to be tough games. And, Swansea absolutely proved that we're going to have to just stand up and be counted way more than what we were on Saturday, else we will get found out starting this Saturday at Ewood Park.
Yeah, it feels like a lot of those teams in and around that pack that we're in are all pretty inconsistent at the moment. Results, failing to string some together. It'll be intriguing to see which side can manage it between now and the end of the season. Of course, there's a few connections in both camps between these two sides. We've got Ben Krezene, who was at Rovers last season. We've also got Shane Duffy, who I know is not the most favourable name around Ewood Park. There's also a few, of course, in the Rovers camp that are formerly Norwich ties. Danny Bart, I think, has been doing pretty well. I believe he's out with injury at the moment. Adam Forshaw, who scored a pretty memorable goal the other week for the first time in quite a number of years. And then the one I probably wanted to get your most insight on, Todd Cantwell, who I think a lot of Norwich fans really want to love, came through our academy, had a really successful spell in the Premier League at one stage, but maybe kind of inconsistencies, maybe cryptic messages away from the pitch and various kind of issues, maybe out of his control to an extent, some within his control, maybe sort of, I suppose, put a little bit of a slighted tint on his career at Norwich. So how's he getting on so far at Rovers?
Not bad, I'd say. Not bad. I think, if I'm being honest with myself, we wanted probably more goals, more assists. In that sense, more outputs in the kind of goal involvements column, if you want to call it that. His best work has been when he's dropped deep to try and get on the ball and try and stitch things together and glue things together. But when you are playing off the striker, that's not where we want him. We don't want him receiving the ball off a centre back or dropping deep, into a left back area when the left back's gone forward. We want him further up the pitch. So it feels like to me, maybe he's playing a bit safe. He's going into those areas where he knows he's not going to get tackled. He knows he's not going to lose the ball. And don't get me wrong, some of the passes that he's done from those areas, some of the things that he's done on the pitch this season, some of the highlight reel stuff that you would expect from Todd Cantwell, all of that has been there, absolutely. But it's goals and assists that matters. And, there was a standout game earlier on this season where we lost 1-0 at home to Hull. And in the second half of that game, when it was 0-0, a golden chance fell to Todd Cantwell that he's just got to put away, and he didn't. Hull go up the other end and score about 10 minutes later. And yes, of course, the result is not Todd Cantwell's fault, but you're thinking, we have bought Todd Cantwell to turn a 0-0 at home to Hull into a 1-0 Rovers win. That's why he's been bought. And I think it's just that area where maybe he's being found wanting a little bit. And in a couple of recent games, he struggled a little bit with injury as well. So I'm not sure how fully fit he is either. But clearly there's a player in there. I've seen him outside the stadium as well. A nice lad as well. Just we want him to succeed, but maybe he's not quite, ignited yet is the right word.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say from the bits I've seen. Certainly a quality player in there, got all the skills and the skill set to play at the top level. But just got to try and find that form on a more consistent level. In terms of maybe a star player or a key player to watch out for on Saturday from the Rovers camp, who would you go for? I know there's kind of, you spoke there about Smodic's departure and maybe spreading the goals out and maybe sort of bringing up certain players' levels. I know Tyrese Dolan seems to have found a little bit more form, particularly under Eustace. Probably be a little bit disappointed that he's left. Who would you pick out for Saturday?
Yeah, I think there's a couple I'll pick out. I think Mac Dargay I've spoken about on our own podcast. I've done a public apology to Mac Dargay because he has metamorphosized into a championship striker. And I don't know how it's happened because October, November time, he was looking every bit a gamble. And why have we signed this guy? And, probably just reward for the recruitment markets that we were operating in at the time. But he seems to have found his feet now. I think his English is getting better. I think he's settled into the country better. And he is just the quote unquote big man up top in the Championship that causes havoc. You can probably think over the years, players that you've come against and thought, bloody hell, they've given us a right rough ride today. And Matt Targay is in that category. He's got a great first touch, really good at linking the play. And as I say, finding some goals at the moment. So really important that we use him well on Saturday, I would say. And then the other one is Lewis Travis. I did mention that he'd obviously gone on loan last season, which was an absolutely nonsensical decision. He didn't see eye to eye with Jon Dahl Tomasson, and just before Jon Dahl Tomasson left, we loaned him out to Ipswich, and then Jon Dahl Tomasson gets sacked, and Travis has played hardly any games for Ipswich last season. So, a real disappointing decision that, but he has come back an animal. That's how I will describe him. He has come back an absolute animal. He's the heartbeat of the side. When we play, he plays well, we play well. Skipper of the side as well, and I think if he's up to his best on Saturday, look out for him. And it's why we came up short against Swansea in the game previous. He looked tired. He didn't look at the races, and we really struggled. So I think Travis and Gay are the two that I'd pick out.
Yeah, in terms of injuries, you mentioned Rovers have struggled a little bit with that this season. I did sort of have a brief look down. Your team seems to be quite a few maybe missing, or some that maybe aren't sort of fully back to fitness yet. There might be more on the bench, the likes of Ohashi, Tronstad from the bits I've seen. I think Danny Bart's out for this game. Cantwell, you mentioned. So is there anyone else, sort of aside from those I just mentioned, that are going to be missing from that Rovers team on Saturday?
Yeah, we're not sure if he's going to start, but it is someone who I would be starting. So Hayden Carter has been out for quite a long time, for quite a few months, and he's another one of our academy products that's come through, and just a really athletic centre-back at this level, comfortable with the ball at his feet, can drive forward down the right-back area if he wants to, and just an absolute man-mountain now after bulking out a little bit. So he's been missing. It's going to be great to have him back, because you're right, Danny Bart has been covering on the whole really well recently, but he's in his 30s and he can't do these game after game after game, as he's now found out with the injury that he's got. And Dion Sanderson on Saturday was found wanting a little bit away at Swansea. So hopefully Hayden Carter is back, but I know that we are being quite gentle with him deliberately. So he may be another one that we don't see on Saturday. But outside of those names that you've mentioned there, it is a fairly fully fit and healthy squad all of a sudden. Players are coming back, and Ohashi, Tronstad and Carter will be like 3 new signings for us based on the recent games that we've had.
I think this game is certainly from sort of the Norfolk quarters is being viewed as a 6-pointer. If we lose this game, the gap to Rovers grows to 7, close the gap with a win, and it goes to 1. And that's just how the Championship operates. You can win a couple of games and you're right back in it, lose a couple and you're sort of pretty far away. So how's it being viewed from sort of the Rovers end? Obviously you've got that extra 4-point buffer on Norwich at the moment, but a win would probably start to pull away from us.
Yeah, I think it's definitely an intriguing game. Obviously, the intrigue level has gone up a notch now with Ismael as the new manager. How's he going to do? Are we going to have a new manager bounce? What's the atmosphere going to be like in the stadium? So that's added to the intrigue level. But before all of that, in my own mind, it's a game that absolutely, if I was a Norwich fan, I'd be looking at this thinking, right, Rovers are the team that we should be trying to claw back, because I think a lot of the comment out there is that West Brom are probably going to make the top 6, or they're going to have a bloody good go at it. And Coventry are absolutely flying at the moment. So if I was going to try and catch a team in the chasing pack, Rovers would be the one, particularly with, the state of our ownership, some of the off-field stuff we've spoken about, and some of the inconsistencies that we've had. But the intrigue, as I say, just comes from Ismael. Is Ismael going to be the man just to unlock the minds of this squad and for them to actually believe that they can make the top 6? And I can't call it either way on Saturday. I really can't. But I do know it's a game that Norwich are going to be coming full of confidence in. And why not? Because if you can get the first goal against Rovers, whether it's home or away, invariably that means a positive result, because we are terrible at coming from behind in games. It's not a great record at all. So that would be my focus if I was Norwich, getting that first goal and quietening down the Rovers fans, who are probably going to be a bit louder because of Ismael. Yeah,
you say you can't call it. Going to round off the show by pushing you for a score prediction. There's lots of variables, I suppose, around this game. We've spoken about a lot of them throughout this show. I think Rovers have got the 6th best home form in the division. Norwich not great on the road, but they have had a pretty good record at Ewood over recent times. I think it's 5 wins and 1 draw in the last 6 visits. Of course, the draw being the last time out when we met at the end of or towards the end of last season. With all that, how do you see this game unfolding on Saturday in terms of a score prediction?
I'm going to have to stay true to what I said on our own podcast. So I said if the new manager's in place, then Rovers will win 2-1. So they've done that. So I'm going to have to stick to that. 2-1 Rovers win.
Yeah, we'll see what we get on Saturday. Just quickly want to plug that podcast, Ryan, where Norwich and Rovers fans can find your guys' content.
Yeah, it's the Arte Labor podcast. It's done through the Lancashire Telegraph. So I do that with Elliot Jackson, who's the Blackburn Rovers supporter for the Lancashire Telegraph. So that's a weekly pod that we do. And I think you can find it at Blackburn Rovers News. I think it is on Twitter. Failing that, search Lancashire Telegraph and you'll find it on there, or Elliot Jackson. Good
stuff. We'll link that down below anyway for anybody that's intrigued. Ryan, really do appreciate your time this afternoon. Great to have you back on the channel speaking all things Rovers. Let's hope for a positive end to the season for both of us.
Absolutely. Thanks, Adam.
Good stuff. Lots of good content coming your way across our channels as we build up to this game. Of course, we were down at Colney yesterday. Hannessoft Torrek's press conference is now available. Had the chat yesterday with the sporting director, Ben Napper, as well, so you can watch that. After you've finished watching this, of course, we'll have Tactics Board on your way tomorrow. And we'll be at Ewood Park on Saturday for Team News Live at 11:30 a.m. Of course, 12:30 kick-off, so don't let that catch you out. If you're not making that trip to Ewood, of course, it will be on the TV, so you can sit down and watch it. And hopefully we get a good game unfolding between two sides that, of course, are chasing that top 6 mixed spire towards the end of this season. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you in the next one.